Hi, welcome to our monthly broadcast. My name is Natalia.
My name is James.
Today we'll be covering 5 topics and then we're going to have a Q&A session at the end. So stay tuned all the way and then we can answer your questions at the end.
The first topic today we're going to be discussing with Mike Fake, our head of partnerships, and Simon from WorldFirst talking about optimizing cross-border trade and payments.
After WorldFirst, we have Ellie with the update of EPR and the UK shifting their rules over to 2025.
After that, Natalia is going to be providing a further update on the responsible person service within the UK and Europe.
We've had a lot of questions about this, so we just thought it'd be good to touch up on it again and just cover up all the questions that you've been asking.
I will be following up talking about the US election and how it may affect you as an e-commerce seller sourcing globally and also potentially looking to expand or sell within the US.
After that, Piero will be giving us some insights into valuation methods and why it is advantage to import into some countries versus others.
And following on from that, we're going to be opening up a live Q&A session. So should you have any questions throughout this broadcast on any of the topics, please leave a question within the chat, which we will be addressing right at the end.
Thank you very much, Natalia and James. That's a wonderful introduction. My name is Mike. I'm the head of partnerships here at Avask, and welcome to this month's Partner Spotlight. And I'm delighted to be joined by WorldFirst live in the Carlton room. And yes, this is Simon Smallwood. So Simon, how are you doing?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you, Mike, and it's great to be here today.
Oh, marvellous. Thank you. It's lovely to have you guys. So Simon, tell me a little bit about WorldFirst.
Okay, so WorldFirst was set up in 2004 with the idea of making it easier for businesses to trade internationally and make payments abroad. And very early on, we became really keen adopters and very involved within the e-commerce system. We were one of Amazon's first PSPs, and our product and service has evolved over the years so that we now provide all of the financial infrastructure an e-commerce merchant needs if they're selling their products internationally. We help them collect the proceeds of those funds, making payments internationally, and ultimately just making it easier for them to grow and expand around the world. WorldFirst has been on a journey itself. In 2019, we actually became part of the larger Ant group. For those that may not be familiar with Ant, they're one of the world's largest fintech businesses and are responsible for the digital payment service Alipay. So as part of the business, it gives us fantastic technology that we're looking to develop and grow. And for those that are interested in football, Ant and WorldFirst are actually going to be one of the sponsors of the Euros 2024 tournament in Germany this summer, which we're really excited about.
Absolutely, yes. And I think we've been running a competition with you guys, haven't we?
Yeah.
It's an absolutely wonderful opportunity. So tell me, obviously, being within the payment sector, it's really quite a large sector to be involved in. Tell me a little bit, what are some of the key challenges that you're seeing sellers facing at the moment?
So I think just the costs of expanding internationally. If you're looking to start selling into a new market, you need to potentially have a bank account or a currency account into that in that market to enable you to collect the proceeds of those sales. It's not always straightforward if you have to jump on a plane and go and do that in person. And just the challenges around paying suppliers, collecting the proceeds of sales that you're making and doing that in the most efficient way possible. And the accounts that we provide, we're really focused on trying to just make the whole process more efficient and to save clients time, but also save them money in terms of how they're managing the proceeds of sales and making it in different jurisdictions and the costs they're incurring when they're expanding globally.
No, thank you. So one of the questions that I'm sure a lot of people would be asking are, if you're an e-commerce business and you're using your business bank account, which I hope you're sincerely not doing, what sort of savings could you be making when you're doing transactions throughout different marketplaces? Because if you consider that some of the sellers, they're selling in the US, they're in the EU, they're in the UK, that's 3 currencies alone. And if they're then also managing payments into things like China, if they've got suppliers out in China or India, I assume that all adds up. What sort of savings are we talking you could make?
So typically, a high street bank or some of the other payments providers might charge you up to 3% when you change money from one currency to another. So if you're making sales, let's say in the US, and you're bringing that money back to the UK, there's a potential 3% saving there. But then if you're also paying suppliers, often if you have suppliers in China, you may be paying them in US dollars. So if you then have to transfer the sterling or other funds back into US dollars to pay your suppliers, you could be hit twice on the exchange rate. Typically there's also savings to be made in terms of the transfer fees. So one of the things that we're able to do is provide local currency accounts in many markets globally, which not only speeds up the time it takes to make the payment or collect the funds from your clients, but it also reduces the cost of moving money, because you're not having to move money internationally cross-border.
Absolutely. So yes, I think that application has many different things. If you consider that you've might be, say, for example, receiving money in US dollars and then paying a supplier in China in US dollars, you don't need to transact that back to, say, pound sterling. And
exactly, and that's one of the key things that we're looking to do. We can provide clients with access to all of their accounts within our portal, and not only are we able to save clients money on the exchange rate by providing them with a more competitive exchange rate, because we allow customers to hold the funds in one currency. They're not forced into transferring it back into their home currency. It also just allows them to manage the whole process more efficiently and actually reduce the volume of money that they need to change from one currency to another, which makes the process more efficient.
Okay, absolutely brilliant. No, thank you for that. So obviously, FX and currency is one great way of making some savings and things. What are the other ways that you can optimize your payments efficiently using these techniques?
Well, one of the things that proves really popular with our clients is WorldFirst. At WorldFirst, we enable our clients to fix an exchange rate at a given date in the future, up to two years in advance. And again, if you have a supply chain in different countries, you're shipping products and moving goods around the world, obviously there can be a time delay between you receiving those products and you being able to start selling those to customers. Being able to fix an exchange rate in the future actually allows our clients to protect their profit margins and protect and manage their cash flows better. So there, with a bit of some of the tools that we're able to provide, really can make a big difference to some of the things that a business owner is going to be worrying about in terms of selling into a new market, managing that profit margin and those cash flows, and may hopefully helping them sleep better at night.
Absolutely, no, thank you. And I mean, we're now midway through 2024, and what trends are you seeing for the next 6 months? What do you think is going to be happening in the markets as you're heading up to the end of Q4?
Well, I think the big events that are likely to impact things this year are obviously the US presidential election. At some point here in the UK, we're going to have an election as well. So they always, the outcomes of those events always move currency markets. So that's definitely something. And with the presidential election being in November, that's obviously during the key selling season for a lot of clients. So that's definitely something that we're seeing interest from clients in terms of how they can manage that exposure and make it work as best for them as possible.
And if you're interested in finding out more about the impact of the US presidential elections, we're also going to be featuring more information later on in this episode. So please do check back later in this broadcast. Okay. Thank you very much for that information, Simon. That's absolutely wonderful. I think that FX payments and managing your multi-currency account is an essential part of trading as an e-commerce business. Now, Avast and WorldFirst are obviously working very closely together, and one of the things that we're extremely strong about working strongly towards is trying to find ways to make transacting in different currencies, transacting in different markets easier. So realistically, I think any seller that's looking to grow or expand cross borders, they do need to consider not only how they're going to optimize their payment strategies, but also how those payment optimizations fit into what they're doing with their taxes and things like that as well. Because again, tax is another way that if you're going to be paying your taxes in multiple currencies, you need to have a currency account available that is going to actually do more than your standard high street bank. So I think those are some very, very key takeaways from that, and that's great. Just as a final note, is there anything else you wanted to potentially mention before the session goes?
No, I think we've had a good conversation and covered a lot there. So again, just like to thank you for inviting me along today, and it's great to get to talk.
So thank you very much, Simon. It's absolutely wonderful to host you here this afternoon. Thank you very much for joining me. And coming up next, we have got Ellie Hansen with some EPR updates. So thank you very much, and yeah, see you next time.
In the UK, extended producer responsibility for packaging represents a pivotal shift towards holding manufacturers accountable for the environmental impact of their products. However, the implementation of this system has faced significant delays, primarily due to the complexity of design scheme that is effective for all stakeholders involved. Although a number registration process is not yet available, those applicable for reporting-only requirements are UK-based organisations. You will need to collect and report your packaging data directly to the UK authorities if all of the following apply. If you're an individual business, subsidiary or group, but not a charity, you have an annual turnover of £1 million or more, you were responsible for more than 25 tonnes of packaging in 2022, or carry out any of the deemed packaging activities, for example, the supply of packaged goods to the UK market under your own brand, or importing packaged goods or empty packaging. Some organisations that supply packaged goods to the UK market will also need to report nation data to declare which nation in the UK packaging is supplied in and where it's discarded. Although this doesn't yet affect anyone outside of the mentioned requirements, it is advised to prepare and be mindful of what is expected should the policy expand. Online marketplaces who meet the discussed requirements will already have had liabilities. Those with methods of pay on behalf collection may be advising sellers that those selling in the UK will be required to pay for the fees the marketplace are being charged for the waste each seller produces. Despite the prolonged initiation, the commitment to the implementation of UK EPR remains persistent, reflecting a collective recognition of the urgent need to address the mounting challenges of plastic pollution and waste management in the UK. Responsible person has been a topic of conversation across the last couple of months, especially because Amazon stopped offering the service. So you now have to find someone else, a different agent that can cover this service. What I would suggest is that you find someone that will do both the UK and the EU. Not only will this make things easier for you, but often they offer bundle pricing too. You do have until December to find someone, so it's not a huge rush. But I would definitely recommend do not leave it until the last minute, especially because these things can take 4 to 6 weeks. So if everyone's going to be doing it at the end of the year, timelines could also increase. So make sure you get this before and you are compliant in both the UK and the EU. There's lots of partners out there that can help you, so just be in touch with us, tell us what you sell, and we can give you the best reference.
As you're aware, the US elections are occurring at the end of this year. As a business owner and an e-commerce seller, it's worth noting and paying attention to what's actually happening in the political space in the US. The reason behind this is during the Trump administration back in 2018, Trump began a trade war with China, which is obviously a very popular location to source your goods from, which affected over $360 billion US worth of goods, increasing tariffs, which was naturally reflected in the US. So what I want you to take away from this sort of information is, one, it's very important to pay attention to what's happening within sort of the political environment globally. And two, it might be worth actually de-risking your sort of supply chain. So moving away from China, looking at other sort of countries to source and to actually produce and provide you with the goods you're looking to sell, to avoid obviously this trade war that may occur, it may not occur, but it's all about de-risking sort of your whole supply chain. Examples of where you can move your manufacturing to, away from China, are the likes of the powerhouses such as India, Pakistan, or even sort of Vietnam, depending on the product obviously that you'd be selling. It's also worth noting, having actually looked at the domestic markets where you're selling and where you may be incorporated in the likes of the US, Turkey, or even sort of Europe. Although the manufacturing costs might be slightly higher than purchasing from Southeast Asia, you'll be reducing the risk of being affected by sort of an increase on tariffs and obviously import duties. You can also benefit from a quicker lead time of the production if it's made within Europe or the US. Should you like any support on this topic, please reach out to us.
Even though all member states in the EU have the same sort of trade laws, when it comes to importing goods, they all act very differently and have different rules considering VAT and import documentations, and at the same time clearance options as well. So for example, let's compare Germany to the Netherlands. When importing to Germany, they are using a method that's been used for many years in terms of the importation documentation as well. So when everything is getting checked out when imported, it's still getting done by a person on a manual basis. Now let's compare it to the Netherlands. When importing to the Netherlands, their valuation is done on an automated software that actually allows you to charge a fixed fee on the importation duties, and at the same time gives you the facility to be able to not pay import VAT upfront by applying for something called an Article 23 license. The same applies for France, for example. It's a good benefit for UK-based businesses that are importing goods from the UK to France thanks to the Eurotunnel. France has the same sort of system done through our software to actually be able to evaluate your customs duties and then clear your goods as well. As I've asked, we can help clear the goods in all three countries. The only advice that we give you is to consider exactly and how the best way is to clear those goods in each country, and consider the best country of importation into the EU. France has many import VAT facilitators, so does the Netherlands. But if you must ship into Germany, there are multiple different ways that we can help with our ask, thanks to the ATS and the UPS programs that we have in place.
Thank you for listening to that. So we've just heard from sort of Piero talking about the different options within sort of Europe where best to import. You know, with those sorts of things, we hear from a lot of sellers. The main entry points are, of course, Netherlands, Germany, and sort of France. Obviously, as Piero mentioned, it is slightly more efficient time-wise, but also because it's automated in Netherlands to sort of import. But what are your thoughts on that, Natalia?
Yeah, I mean, it comes up in conversation all the time, especially when it comes to VAT as well. There's benefits of importing into one country or another. So with Kata and with Avask, you can join these forces and obviously ship into the best one for you. There's lots of different ways of postponing your import VAT, so you don't have to pay for it up front, and then you have that cash flow to invest elsewhere. So lots of great options. Obviously, we've heard about the US elections, and we've heard about EPR changing the rules, shifting it over to 2025. And responsible person keeps coming up in conversations, doesn't it?
Exactly. And obviously the last point which I mentioned was obviously the US elections and sort of where you're sort of sourcing your goods from. We would like to, take this opportunity to invite anyone sort of listening who's, listened to any of the sort of segments to, put a question in the chat and for us to answer that live. So we're going to give you a few moments to, post a question. Of course, we're going to try our best to answer them live. If not, of course, then we will reach out to you sort of, offline via mail or via phone. But I took a specific interest within sort of the major segment of today's broadcast, which was with WorldFirst, as I think it's one of those things that a lot of e-commerce sellers actually forget about.
Yeah.
It's all well and good sourcing, pricing, but if you are missing out on certain margins due to currency exchange, it's an easy win, ultimately. And it's something we've definitely seen over the years, looking at clients expand across markets with different currencies. So.
Yeah, and I think it comes up in conversation, and we talked to WorldFirst about this, because a lot of the times you need a local account to reclaim your VAT.
Yeah.
And that's a huge, huge benefit. As soon as you have a UK bank account, you can reclaim all your VAT from HMRC, which otherwise might come in checks or it just gets lost. So some of the sellers watching today, you guys might have a lot of VAT that you can reclaim. And the best way to do this is by getting a local account, and then you can obviously reclaim it. But as James said, obviously, if you have any questions on any of the topics we've discussed today or anything to do with e-commerce, just pop it on the chat and we can obviously answer that for you today.
Precisely. I think I would like to bring a slightly more attention to, I believe, actually your segment this month in terms of the responsible person. It is sort of the second time we've actually spoken about it on the broadcast. I think previously we had Patrick, our colleague, who sort of mentioned it and went into depth, but it's more about sort of the attention and the reasons why there are changes, which is probably quite important for you to understand. So obviously Amazon has previously taken on some part of the responsibility, but they felt that responsibility is probably too much for them to take on as an organization and also as a marketplace. With regards to that there are many different opportunities and sort of other providers who are able to support to different degrees. So it's definitely worth doing the research now before these changes really come into effect and sort of the market goes a little bit crazy.
Yeah, because you do have until December, so there's plenty of time to find a provider that you think is good for you and that covers the market that you specialize in. But as you were saying, obviously it's recently changed. So the best thing you can do is find someone now, get the foot in the door, get someone prepared. A lot of our clients are asking, can I do it myself? I wouldn't personally recommend it just because of the liabilities behind it. So just find someone that specializes in offering this service, and they can cover both UK and EU a lot of the time. So if you can find one agent that you're comfortable with and covers your product category, then you can have them for both UK and EU.
Definitely. I think that's a good bit of advice there. So we do actually have a few questions within the chat, so I am just going to sort of bring them up on screen. I'll give it a read. So I think Maria sort of asked a few questions about sort of the main requirements in regards to sort of EPR, whether we can go over them, once more if we have a list. I mean, we're more than happy to sort of go over the details and the prerequisites for it. I think that the major attention we would like to bring to this is that it is currently a marketplace requirement in the likes of Germany, France, Spain, and also Austria. So if you're looking at marketplaces such as Amazon, then it's critical that those markets are covered. But what we are seeing is other marketplaces, countries, such as sort of the likes of Italy and Poland, Sweden, even the UK, as of 2025, are slowly preparing themselves to introduce this sort of new legislation in effect.
Yeah, and just to keep it back, take it back to basics, what you need is an EPR number. So that number is being asked for on your listings. So if you get an EPR number, you can put that on your listings. It enables you to sell that product in the market. It does go by category. So you have packaging, for example, you have batteries, electronics. So it all depends on the product that you're selling. Different products will obviously have different categories and you can have multiple registrations. So get your number, put it on your listings. Agents like Avask will do the filings for you. So we will cover the entire year of sales. We'll do the filings for you. And then we'll calculate how much eco contribution you have to pay based on how many sales you made in that year. So there's 3 things to take into consideration: having the registration, completing the filings, and then paying your eco contributions.
Definitely. I think there's wise words. Just to finish up on there, the requirement for EPR primarily is if you bring your product onto the market. So just bear that in mind. If you do one single sale, then it's obviously relevant. We do have sort of another follow-up question with regards to EPR. This gentleman on LinkedIn, or woman, apologies, has EPR in Germany. Does that sort of have any implications, sort of the responsible person?
Okay. Yeah, good questions. It's 2 completely separate things. So one thing is EPR, which has to do with the products that you're selling, making sure that they're disposed of correctly. That's why EPR came into place. And then responsible person is all to do with your labeling and having someone to essentially vouch for you and your products. So if anyone was ever to come and check the product, they would hold one of these products and just make sure that their responsibility is there to sell it in the market. So 2 separate things. I don't know if you want to add anything.
No, I think you've covered it there. There are 2 separate services that need to sort of be addressed. We'll move on to the next questions. You guys have been quite active in sending questions in, which we're quite thankful for. So let me have a look on the screen. What would be the next one we would put up there? So we've got there, we're one talking about sort of the responsible person again, that they're based in Germany. Will that be enough, or do we need an extra requirement in the UK? I mean, I'll take this one on to answer. So as of Brexit, unfortunately, the United Kingdom obviously left the European Union. So previously, prior to Brexit, being based in Germany would have actually covered the requirement for the responsible person within the United Kingdom. But since Brexit, unfortunately, the United Kingdom has left the European Union, meaning you do require, as a German business, or a European business, better said, a UK responsible person if you're looking to sell certain products products within the UK market, regardless of marketplace. But it is sort of a requirement at the moment.
And likewise, the other way around. So if you have a UK company and you're selling in Germany, same situation.
Exactly. Well, we move on to the next question now. I'll let you lead this one.
The long one. What kind of delays are the sellers expecting to recover their VAT in the EU and the UK, according to the newest announcement from Amazon? There will be no more invoices with zero VAT from Luxembourg. Instead, all appropriate VAT rates will be added according to the country of issue. Exactly. This is starting from August, so it's quite a new change, and it's just been brought to us by Amazon. So obviously we'll have more information on this, and if you join our future broadcast, we can definitely do a whole topic on this, just because I know it's of interest with a lot of our sellers. But just with any VAT on services, we will be able to reclaim this back for you. I know this situation only affects a couple of sellers, so if you're incorporated in like the main 5,
I think it was the main 5, the
5 or
likes
7, yeah.
Main 7 if we go on the safe side. I think it was Germany, France, United Kingdom, Sweden, Spain, and Italy, if I'm not mistaken.
But I guess to your question, how long will it take to reclaim this VAT? It's actually going to depend on the country. So each country has different timeframes that they provide us with a reclaim of VAT. But at least I can assure you that it is reclaimable, and we can do this as part of the VAT services that we can provide. So obviously, if you speak to your tax agent, they can give you more details based on exactly which countries you're selling in. But yes, Lisek, you can reclaim the VAT. I know it's obviously a big change coming from August, but we can definitely cover that. Potentially, there might be a bit of delay at the beginning just because it's a new thing, but reclaim of VAT isn't a new thing, so tax offices are used to it.
Well, thank you for answering that one. We're going to move on to another question, I believe, off LinkedIn. I currently ship my products from China to the United Kingdom. Would I need to pay import duties and import VAT when shipping to Germany? I'll take this one on. It depends on the scenario, dare I say it. Either way, if you're shipping from the United Kingdom or directly from sort of your supplier in China through to Germany, unfortunately, Germany doesn't necessarily have as many favorable sort of mechanisms such as PVA in the UK or Article 23 such as the Netherlands. So if you're looking to import into Germany, you will be subject to the duties and also the import VAT at the point of clearance. There might be a slight deferment account that's set up, so you can have a few days depending on who you're shipping with and who's clearing for you. However, Germany, as mentioned by Piero, perhaps in the previous sort of episode, isn't the most favorable place to import through. We'd usually recommend looking at the likes of sort of Netherlands, then to move the goods on to Germany, or if you're sending to Amazon, just in the Dortmund area. So
yeah, but in this case, I would also suggest doing 2 separate shipments. So obviously from China to the UK, China to the EU, don't be paying double customs border, double duties, because it's obviously non-reclaimable. So if you separate that shipment, then you just pay for the duties once.
Precisely. So I think we're going to call it there in terms of sort of the Q&A. If there are any other sort of pressing questions, please do reach out to us on, I believe it's inquiries@avaskgroup.com.
Yeah.
And one of the members of staff will sort of reach out to you directly. If you're able to find us on LinkedIn and want to get a quicker answer, let us know. Reach out to us. Always happy to sort of support. But we appreciate the attention you've given the broadcast today, and hopefully you've taken some information from the different episodes. They're slightly varied in terms of shipping, the tax, the responsible person, and even somewhat the US. So we appreciate your attention today. Over to you.
Yeah, just thank you for listening and giving so many questions. But again, if you have any other questions or if anything wasn't clear, just send us a message, or you can email us, or on avask.com. You can obviously find lots of information. So we look forward to hearing from you, and we look forward to seeing you in the next broadcast.
Splendid. Thank you very much.
Thank you.